Indeed, Cara, an astonishing story here indeed. Hello there. You know, when one of the biggest names in the world of money talks, people around the world listen. And this message may seem surprising to those, well, certainly in the financial arena. The boss of Blackrock, his name's Lawrence Fink, one of the most influential investors on this planet, has sent a letter telling the biggest public companies around the world that they need to give back to society or face losing the support of the investment firm. This is something. Blackrock, biggest in the world, it manages an extraordinary $6 trillion in investments. Let's go straight over to Chris Roebuck, who's a visiting professor of transformational leadership at the Cass Business School. He joins us from Kent today. Chris, great to see you, mate. Let me ask you this. I was reading, an associate dean at the Yale School of Management says it's huge for an institutional investor to take a position like this. In fact, he says he has never seen anything like this in all his years. Is this a watershed moment for Wall Street?
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, this is a watershed moment, to be blunt, for the leadership of all investors, the leadership of all corporates. You know, if we go back, Milton Friedman said that the only responsibility of the corporate was to its shareholders to make profits. And everyone's been quoting that. But we forget that he said that 56 years ago. And since then, we've had globalization, we've got climate change. The world has got challenges that Milton Friedman would not even have dreamt about. So at last, what's happening is that the corporate world, in terms of the relationship with wider society, is being forced to accept that it has to change.
Indeed. And Mr. Fink, again, the Blackrock boss, he said that he's seeing governments all around the world who are failing to prepare for the future. He says on issues ranging from retirement and infrastructure, automation, etc. And the result is this is forcing, if you want, society to look at the private sector to pick up the slack.
Well, and I think the problem is that you know, it's a partnership, but depending where you look in the world, what is interesting is a lot of smaller countries, take UAE, for example, are now looking at really proactively building that partnership in terms of creating a good society between business, government, and the people in that society. But it seems to me that what's happening is that the bigger countries are taking much, much longer to recognize that in 2018, that is a criticality for the next 50 years. So some people are recognizing it. Activist shareholders have seen to some degree, you know, it needs to be done. The important thing about BlackRock is that BlackRock is now a big player who has become more proactive. And I think that's critical. Chris, you see, the UN recognizes it through the UN Global Compact as well.
Yeah. Chris, very, very briefly, will they listen?
Yes, because in the end, they're going to come under increasing pressure that if they don't listen. But the other thing is we need to stop corporate social responsibility tokenism. It has to be real, and it has to make a real benefit for the partnership between society and business.
Okay, Chris Roebuck, always a pleasure, mate. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.